everybody, it's Chainsaw. Today I'm reviewing Volume 2 of the Five Finger Death Punch album, The Wrong Side of Heaven and The Righteous Side of Hell, Volume 2, aka the second part of this double album they're putting out this year. Let's start talking about Volume 2. So, Volume 1, I reviewed that earlier this year when it came out, and I had some positive things to say about it, but also some negative things as well. But that did not make me think I'm going to judge Volume 2 before it even comes out. I went into this album with an open mind going, I'm not going to judge Volume 2 solely based on what I thought about Volume 1, because there's no telling what's going to happen, and I am so glad that I decided to go into this album with an open mind, because after coming out of the album, listening to it twice in its entirety, and then today hearing it for a third time to really get my final thoughts on it, that I enjoyed this album way better than I enjoyed Volume 1, and there's a few things that basically made me think this and made me go, I like this album better than Volume 1, and hopefully I can explain that through this review. The thing I had a problem with about Volume 1 was some of the lyrical content and some of the musical things they did, including a cover, which is Mama Said Knock You Out. They did a cover on this album that actually closes the album. It's a song called The House of the Rising Sun, a traditional folk cover song. And I felt like that when I first saw that, it was like, I don't know, like I didn't like the cover for Volume 1, but I actually enjoyed this cover on this album. I enjoyed the fact that they took a very traditional type song that has been heard around for a long time, and they basically took their own spin on it, did their own twist, and I really enjoyed how they heavied it up, but not to the point where it was too heavy to where it wasn't the same song, it didn't have the same kind of feel, and I think they did a good choice with the direction they took with covering that song and not making it too crazy and heavy and hectic. Now, for the rest of this album, there were some musical moments that really stood out to me and made me go, I enjoyed this better than Volume 1. For example, Volume 2 had a song called The Agony of Regret, which is about a little over a minute and 30 seconds, and it's a acoustic guitar slash clean guitar melodic piece. It was an instrumental that really stood out to me because before we get to this track, we have songs that are very heavy, hectic, and angry, and then we get to this track that kind of pulls it back and does a complete 180 of what's the rest of the first part of the album is doing. And I feel like that was a good direction because it really surprised me, and I was like, I was just not expecting that. Of course, Battleborn, the single, which I haven't heard before this album, I wanted to go into it completely blind, did have some melodic moments and really pulled back the music and not made it too heavy like the rest of the album before we get to the Agony of Regret, the instrumental. But I was just so used to this anger side of Five Finger Death Punch and not this acoustic guitar slash clean guitar bit. It's a short instrumental, but it really just made a complete 180. Now, the next track right after that, The Agony of Regret, we go to Cold, which opens with piano. Another musical moment that stands out because you're going, wait a minute, I just heard acoustic guitars and clean guitar moments with this melodic short piece, and now we're starting the very next track with piano, and it's basically a really interesting melodic track that just flows along, has some heavy high points, and comes back to melodic points during the verses, and really has a very upbeat melody type thing going with it. So I feel like that they were more focused on these tracks. And I will have to say, on the other side of Five Finger Death Punch, the angry side that we all know, either you love it or you hate it or you like it or whatever, the angry side is seen throughout this whole entire album. Not in every place, but it's pretty close. Like the instance, Here to Die, the opening track, that track really was a very angry track. The track starts off with words kind of like this. It's not 100% the lyrical, taken from the lyrics, but basically the song is about love, but it's actually about anger or hate. The starting off the album, like kind of like where it was going to be about love, but it's complete opposite now. It kind of sets you up, well, okay, I get it. Yep, the anger is still here, and the anger is still there. Now, this might necessarily make you go, like, walk away saying, well, I'm kind of used to hearing that. That's different. It's not different. It's the same thing they've done before. Well, for me, it's a hit and miss situation. If the lyrical content is written correctly and it actually, flows right and they're actually getting something across rather than just, blatantly just screaming about angry things with no cohesive thing that's happening, it was just screaming about anger, then I would have a problem. But there actually are some moments where the anger, there's actually a point behind it. There's actually something pushing it. There's actually something that makes you go, I'm interested in hearing about this. I want to hear this. I want to hear this anger. I want to hear this. And that's what I feel about this album. Of course, there are some negative things, but I'll get to that as we start talking about the band and how they contributed and all that stuff. But one more thing I want to say about positive about this album is that the musical components, the actual music, the actual guitars, bass, and drums, and vocals, but mainly the music, there are some heavy-hitting moments on this album. There are some melodic moments that really catch you by surprise. And the heavy moments sometimes really caught me by surprise, too. I just didn't expect the intensity in that section there, or this section here. So I would have to give them them credit for the fact that they are still surprising me, because Volume 1 necessarily didn't really surprise me that much, but Volume 2 actually gave me some moments to really be surprised about, to me go, okay, I want to hear more of this. I want to hear what's going to happen next this track. I'm not going there, sitting there going, okay, when is this going to end? I'm actually kind of interested in seeing where the song's going to go, and sometimes it goes in great places. Now let's start talking about the actual band members and talking about their part of this album, and then some of the negative things will be brought up. But don't forget that I did say some very positive things about this album, because apparently on Volume 1 people ignored the whole positive things I had to say and just completely went with the bad. So remember that. I did say some positive things, and there's still more positive things to say. So anyways, Ivan on vocals and his lyrical content. I've never had a problem with Ivan on vocals. His vocals are very aggressive and angry when it needs to be. And when he has to sing and be more melodic and be pulled back when the actual band is pulled back and being more of the melodic side of Five Finger Death Punch, he does great in both. I think his voice actually has improved on the angry, aggressive, screaming and yelling type vocals, and the actual singing vocals, he's improved there as well. I think he has a great singing voice and a great angry voice, and it's a perfect match for this type of band, a very angry type band. Now, lyrically, I had some issues with Volume 1, but for Volume 2, I do have some issues, but not as many issues as Volume 1. Volume 2, it seems like some of the lyrical content is more focused. I'm not saying Volume 1's lyrical content is not focused at all and it's all over the place, but Volume 2 seems like it's more focused on this central idea for this song, and we're actually going to be focused strictly on this. We're not going to expand out and kind of trickle off the main idea. We're going to stick with this main concept. There are some moments that I have issues with the cursing, and on Volume 1 on the review, a lot of people gave me some crap because they said I'm a baby and I should grow up because they said fuck too much. Well, here's the thing, and I will repeat it again. It's not about being a baby. It's about the fact that I think that using the word fuck 20 plus times in one song, or any cuss word in that fact, the emphasis and the actual, meaning of that word goes away when it's being used so many times that it just it doesn't matter. It's just, you're just throwing the fuck in there just to get the fuck in there. Sometimes that's happening on this album, but sometimes it's actually used for the emphasis. It's actually used to enhance that lyrical place there. It's actually used for a purpose rather than saying, okay, I'm going to throw fuck in here, I'm going to throw fuck in there. There's actually a reason for it to be thrown into the lyrical content. So I do have some negative things to say about lyrical content, because sometimes it's kind of repeating and it kind of, it kind of gets old. But there are some actual lyrical moments on this album that actually stood out. So I have to give credit for that. It's a big part of this album is lyrically about this album. That's a big thing. That's why I spent a lot of time talking about Ivan. But overall, some of the lyrical content is great, good, decent. Some of it, not so much. But that's just my opinion. Of course, you guys have different opinions. Like I said, once again, Ivan did good on vocals. Let's talk about Zoltan, I'm hoping I'm saying his name right, and Jason on rhythm and lead. Let's talk about rhythm. So the rhythm guitars are what you'd expect from Five Finger Death Punch. With the angry, aggressive side, that heavy tone is there. It reminds me so much of Volume 1 and past releases, the guitar tone they picked. It's heavy, it's crunchy, it's aggressive, and it's in your face, and it's those heavy-hitting riffs that you want to hear from Five Finger Death Punch. Now, when we're pulled back and more of the melodic, the guitars sound great as well. The acoustic guitars sound great. The actual clean guitar sounds great. So there's no complaints with the guitar playing there. Some of the riffs, like I said earlier in this review, did stand out, so I have to give props to that, because some of the rhythm guitar riffs surprised me. Like, oh, I did not expect that kind of riff from this band, so props to that. And for the lead playing wise, I was also surprised as well, because I've never really had an issue with the lead playing from Five Finger Death Punch. Whenever it is thrown into a song, and whenever it does, have its actual high point moment where it's actually showcasing the guitar playing, the lead guitar is shining. It's a great sound, and it really fits along with what the rest of the band is playing. The band really focuses on what they're going to be doing while the lead guitar is doing its thing. While that solo is happening, the band figures out what's the best way we can actually help this guitar solo move along and help it flow right. And that's good that the band really helps out with lead playing, and the lead playing sounds great. So no problems there. Let's talk about Chris on bass. The bass sounded good. I could hear the bass through the mix, and I really enjoyed that, so that's always a plus for me. I will have to say, I wish there was some more moments where the bass actually stood out, where it actually maybe started into a riff, or maybe helped transition better and actually did something a little bit different to really catch the attention of the listener. But overall, I will have to say that the bass did a good job, and I would say that Chris did a good job on bass, so I have no gripes there. Now, Jeremy on drums. I felt like the drumming on this album was a lot better than Volume 1, because I felt like you know, the musical parts, the rhythm, the lead playing, and the bass playing was more aggressive in some moments and actually was surprising. So on top of that, the drums were also surprising well. There were some drum fills that really stood out, some drum beats that were actually very standing out and made you go, well, I want to repeat that again, I want to hear the drums again. And so I have to give Jeremy props because the drums really did catch my attention and made me want to listen to certain sections to see what he's doing, what he's playing, and seeing what he's contributing. And he did a very good job on drums. The drums were heavy and they were going along with the rhythm playing and the lead playing and the bass playing and Ivanhoe vocals, so there's no issue there. The band sounds good for what they're doing. They are very aggressive when they can be, and they're very melodic when they want to be. And overall, I think they have a good sound for this album. Now, of course, musically and lyrically, there's some moments where it's, yeah, you know, but overall, I think they have a good sound, and I think that, you know, some of these songs in this album are they stand out. They are songs to really look at and go, this is a great moment for Five Finger Death Punch. This is a high point in the album. This is a moment where I want to listen to the song again. I want to hear this song again. I want to hear what's happening. And that's a good thing because sometimes there's, you know, albums that don't have high points where it's just mainly the same thing. It keeps flowing. Volume 2 of this series, the second album of this double album, I feel like is a better fit. It reminds me more of the past stuff from Five Finger Death Punch, and overall, I think it's a better album than Volume 1. Obviously, Volume 1, I'm not saying it's a bad album, but I feel like Volume 2 is better. So overall, I think this album is pretty good from Five Finger Death Punch. It really showcased both sides of Five Finger Death Punch very well. And overall, I'm, you know, kind of anticipating to see what they're going to do next with the band. So that's the review, guys. If I had to give a rating, which I will, I'm going to give this album an 8 out of 10. That may be pretty high, but I think that this album deserves it. It really has some very good moments on this album that I think people should check out if you're a fan of Five Finger Death Punch or a fan of just heavy metal in general. So thank you guys for watching. That is the review. I am Chainsaw. Thank you guys again. If you liked the video, like the video. And if you like me and you want to see more, click my name or subscribe to see more. Thank you guys for watching. See ya.